And you've just heard Inward by Russell Stewart, and I'm delighted to be joined by Russell now. Hello, Russell.
Oh, thank you for having me on the show.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure. First of all, can you tell us about Inward and also your recent release, Align, which we'll hear later on?
Yeah, so I guess Align was the first one to come out last month. That was, I guess, we surprised people. I wanted to like take people in a new, more electronic direction for that one and kind of like catch people off guard. And then Inward is kind of bringing it a wee bit back a bit, and it's more mellow. Yeah, there's just two new releases that are coming off my upcoming EP, which will be out.
So there's something larger going on. There's you're working towards the release of an EP.
Yeah, which is mad to say. Finally, I feel like I've been wanting to do this for so many years, but like have an actual like larger project and a larger body of work to bring out into the world. But yeah, I'm so relieved that it's finally happening and that I can finally say to people that it's happening instead of just teasing it and saying like something's coming.
Well, I was going to ask you, I mean, you've taken your time between releases, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
You know, I think Citrus came out in 2020, Midsummer 2019. They're two great songs, I have to say. But is that a deliberate choice, or was that just the way that things happened?
It's kind of just the way things happened, and just like, you know, like dealing with life stuff and pandemics and everything. But it's just,
of course, sometimes I forget that went on, but you're absolutely right.
But no, it's like I'd originally wanted to put out an EP like back in 2020, and then obviously stuff happens and just you keep rolling with it and keep saying, right, well, change plans, think, is this possible, do this? It just kind of, it gets to the point where you're just constantly trying to replan and reorganize, and it's too much, so you just have to kind of delay things. But yeah, we fully went with it this year. At the start of this year, we're recording. We started doing Align last year. I was recording with Van Ives, so Stuart Ramage and Rowan Ballantyne, with I did Citrus with, and yes, we started this year on the other songs, properly going for it. And I was determined to get the music out this year and make it happen. So yes, I'm glad it's actually happening and it's real.
And as you say, Align was a bit of a kind of move away perhaps from the more soulful stuff that you were doing. Was that a deliberate thing to try something else? Yeah,
I mean, all the songs on this EP are, they have like running threads, I guess, with the production and like my kind of style of songwriting, I guess, but they are quite sonically different, and they're kind of expressing the different sides of my music that I've always wanted to show people. Because I think for a long time people only heard Midsummer and thought that was all my music was kind of that style, and particularly if they came to like a live show, I would play other songs, like much more sad mellow songs, or like solo songs with a guitar, or live band stuff that was like much more kind of leaning towards Align. And it was like people were like, oh, that's interesting. They like it, but they were like, oh, but like I didn't expect that. So I kind of wanted to just show more sides of me and like let people hear the different stuff.
That's interesting, because Midsummer was really kind of acclaimed, you know, people thought it was such a good song. Do you feel a pressure then to kind of repeat that, or you just go, no, I'm going to do what I want to do anyway?
Yeah, I did a bit in 2020 was when it really started to take off. It got added to like one playlist on Spotify. Oh, I can't remember the name of it. Oh, it was Our Generation. And I was like, wow, that's mad. That's so nice. And then it sort of snowballed from there, got added to other playlists, and more people like started listening. And it felt kind of weird at the time, because that was obviously when the world kind of stopped, and it was like strange felt like I wasn't doing anything, but at the same time, Midsummer was gaining traction, which I'd done that the year before.
Yeah.
So it was lovely, and but it was just a bit like of a strange, like, oh, that's bizarre, and then it did feel kind of like, oh no, now the next thing I have to follow this up, like, what are people going to think, or are people going to be too used to that, or? But then I put out Citrus, and people seemed to, like, a lot of people commented saying like it felt right in the direction I was taking it. It felt like an evolution sort of thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. It's still a Russell Stewart song,
Yeah,
but it's kind of different as well, which I guess is what you want. And when during lockdown, were you still making music? Were you still, involved in it, or was it just kind of you went, well, I can't go out and play this, so I'm going to put it aside?
no, I did. I was just trying to write a lot and just doing a lot of thinking about how the music would sound. And then that was what led me to working on Citrus with Roan and Stewart. Just because I've always loved their actual, well, I love their music and the way they write, but their actual production style is so slick and so interesting. And then we just kept working together, and it's been great hearing all the songs turn out the way they are, like especially Align. When I did that live, it used to have like the same elements that it does nowadays, but just on such a smaller scale. So I would try to have that same like huge sound, but it was obviously limited by the band, like having a live band sort of thing. And they've just taken it and blown the track up and added all these huge elements, and just like, it was just crazy. I remember listening to like one of the demos after they'd added in all the stuff. I was just like, wow, this is like better than I could have imagined.
And what is your setup live? Are you full band? Is it just yourself? What's the situation?
Well, we've got the Touch show coming up on the 18th of November, the same day the EP comes out, to launch it. And I think this is the first time I'm going to be doing it with like a trio, like a 3-piece. Mm-hmm. So it'll be me, drums, hit pads, and like keys, bass, synth bass stuff. And that'll be interesting because it'll be like a new live dynamic I've not done before, but I'm like half excited, half terrified to like to see how it goes. But no, I'm very excited because we'll be doing a lot with like backing tracks as well, which always used to terrify me. I always like wanted to use them but never did, and slowly over the past year, we're doing gigs with me and my keys player. We've been like adding backing tracks to the duo setup, and it's been great, and people really like it. It's just the first time you do it, you're like, oh no, everything's gonna crash, everything's gonna go wrong.
So this live set is kind of developing as you go. You're kind of playing.
Yeah. Especially like this will be the first time playing a couple of these songs on the EP. It'll be the first time playing them live for this gig coming up. So it'll be a big experiment. It'll be cool.
And you mentioned working with the guys from the Van Ives, and I was thinking over the weekend, because the Scottish Album of the Year shortlist came out, and it's a cracking shortlist, how healthy the state of Scottish music is at the moment. Is that something that you would agree with?
Oh, definitely. I love it's you kind of forget sometimes, you take it for granted, and then when you see the actual like scale of it, with like when the long list came out, especially, look back like, wow, it's ridiculous, especially all the number of albums that were submitted to the award. How many? It was like almost 400, I think.
Yeah, I think it was well over 300 anyway. Yeah. That's true.
And you just think you just forget the scale. Sometimes you just get so like worked up in your own work, or wider UK or worldwide music and all that stuff. You just forget how much talent and how much work is going on here. and like the variety of it as well.
Well, no, absolutely. Have you got anyone that you would recommend that we go out and check out?
Oh,
They're putting you on the spot.
oh, Terrakin
Right.
released the new debut single last week, the week before. Definitely check out that, Flames. She's been like building up to that for a long time, and it's like a really stunning debut single, and the rest of the music that's coming really cool. So definitely Terrakin.
And you've collaborated with other people. I'm thinking about, you did a single with Luke Joy. Is that something that you would maybe do more of in the future?
Oh, Luke J.
Sorry, Luke J. That's my...
Oh, Luke Joy is a cool name though. Yeah, that was great fun. We've been working on that for a long time. That sort of like built. He like sent over this track, and he wanted to put like a top line on it. So we were sending that back and forth for ages, and that turned out really cool. And I love doing that. I love working with other people. I love writing with other people, especially, but also taking like music like that that's very heavily produced, or like dance music, and like trying to write to that or adding wee top lines. I think it's just so much fun, and you come out with like such strange, not always, but like sometimes you get such strange like crashes of different worlds that it just works. So yeah, I love experimenting with that sort of thing.
That's really interesting. I guess, you know, if you're working just on your own stuff, then you've got an idea of how it's going to sound. But when you bring it together with someone else's work, then kind of anything could happen.
Yeah. And it kind of like takes away the limits of your own writing, but at the same time it limits you to their creativity, if that makes sense. Yeah. So like you have to like take yourself out of your own thinking and put yourself in their thinking, but you're bringing your own experience to it, so it's cool. I just love doing that. And in terms of influences, as you said, your music, there's different strands to it. Who really influences your work? Who do you listen to a lot? I think right now, definitely the people who influenced me for like the sound of this EP. It's people like Nail, Leanne LaHavis, like Nick Hakim, Amber Mark, FK Twigs. It's like a lot of people who, I'd say in like in a similar way, it's like a lot of the stuff is like maybe couched in soul, or it's like has grown as like soul, neo soul, but it's different people are like different elements of acoustic or folk or electronic or indie or like harsh sound music. And it's just like I love what they do in their different ways, like taking from different genres, and that's a good cross section of the type of music that I listen to. So yeah, I think that happens more and more these days, that people are open to influences. You know, I'm thinking about people who maybe initially would be jazz musicians, but they bring in folk music or they bring in hip hop or all those kind of things. It does happen a lot. Yeah. A funny thing that I've seen happen in the past couple of years is exactly that. It's people who have grown through one style who are now branching out into another style. And it's lovely to see people like grow in that way and hear their music change and really blossom in some ways. So it's good. And so the EP, when's that due to come out? Did you say November? 18th November. Excellent. And are you looking even scared? I can tell. So I take it you're not even looking beyond that. That's the kind of the front of your mind, and what happens after that can take its time. Yeah, I have to stop myself. I always try and think about what's happening next. I have to plan stuff. I have to like always think forward, but I'm really trying not to with this. I'm just gonna focus on this and then take a wee break for a wee while afterwards and just let what happens happen. Well, Russell, I'm really looking forward to hearing the EP, and thanks very much for taking the time to talk to me. Oh, thank you so much for having me, and thanks for always like playing my music and be so supportive. Oh, that's a pleasure. And this is
Russell Stewart and A Line.